wonder how intelligence develops in your child? How much of your baby's intelligence was she or he born with, and how much of it is due to your parenting? And does singing, talking, and reading to your baby and young child really make a difference in the long term for his or her intelligence? So the big question is this: how do we navigate through the mountain of overwhelming, often contradictory, and sometimes false parenting information we find online? What parenting information should you believe and apply, and what should you reject? That is the big question, and in this podcast, we will help you understand what underlies your child's behavior and explain how to react in a way that favors your child's optimal development. I'm Alexandra Scherzer, and welcome to Dr. Solomon's Wisdom. So chances are you've heard of or maybe even attended a baby class where a group of parents get together to sing and read stories to their babies, toddlers, and preschoolers. And you may have wondered, or even joked about with friends, is this type of activity really benefiting your baby's development? Or is it something more for you to get out of the house to meet up with other parents, etc.? Well, when my son was a baby, I attended a few of these classes. And I enjoyed and looked forward to getting out of the house and meeting up with other parents. And although I knew it was a good thing for my son, it definitely felt like I was the one benefiting the most from these outings. And in the home, I also sang and read to him. Again, I figured it was good for him, but if I'm being completely honest, it really just helped me pass the time. So I was curious if and how our singing and storytelling was affecting our son's development. So I talked to my mom about it, and that's what today's podcast is about. Can your parenting help bring out your child's intelligence? To begin with, does parenting play a role in a child's intelligence, or is it all inborn? Meaning they're born with a certain intellect, and pretty much whatever you do, it won't change it.
Well, the answer to that is that question is still being debated. Some people feel that it is all inborn, and other people feel no, that it is very much what happens in the environment, what parents do, what the experiences the child is exposed to, who he plays with, are what develop his intelligence. In either case, it is very important to stimulate the child's intelligence, for whether it is to come out because it was inborn or whether it's because of all the stimulation. It's very important to do certain things with your child, with your baby, in order for his intelligence to develop, to be visible. And both schools of thought agree that there is an upper limit that is inborn. That is, you can't take a child with average or above average intelligence and turn him into a genius. That just doesn't happen.
So to be clear about this upper limit that you talked about, you're saying that babies are born with really an inborn upper limit for their intelligence. So the best that child could do is really just reach that limit.
That's right. But that could be very high.
Right, and we just don't know what it is when they're born.
Don't mistake the word limit. It just means that, as I said, you can't take a lovely, intelligent baby and turn him into a genius. That's not going to happen.
Right. So, and the two schools of thought are really that whether it's completely inborn or it has everything to do with your parenting, what happens in the child's life is what will sort of make or break them reaching that upper limit.
That's right.
Okay. So on to the next question. What type of parenting then can help a child reach his or her potential?
Well, with your baby, your preschooler, your toddler, you talk to them. You tell them what you're doing. You play with them. You talk about what you're playing. You read stories to them. You explain things to them. And they just soak it all up like little sponges. And this is what brings out or contributes to the development of intelligence.
So as parents, how do we know that we're doing enough? How many how many books, how many songs? How do we know when we've parented enough to help our child develop as much as possible towards that intellectual potential?
Well, the baby or the child will show you. If your baby falls asleep, you know it's time to stop stimulating. If your child runs away and wants to play with his Legos instead of listening to you, you know it's time to stop. Your child will always give you signals. Your child will show you whether he or she is interested or not. Watch your baby. They'll show you.
And from a parent's point of view, though, and from my experience, it can get tiring and exhausting to constantly answer questions and to stimulate and to come up with new games. And so at what point, from a parent's point of view, should we keep going?
I guess basically when you're tired, you stop. Because at one point, when it becomes really forced and unpleasant for you, then it's unpleasant for the child, and the child stops learning from you.
So the bottom line here is that it sounds like the focus should be spontaneous fun as a form of stimulation, and nothing forced in terms of time or activity. If he'd rather sing and I'd rather read, well, then we sing.
Exactly. It should be very pleasant for the two of you.
So I understand how young children being exposed to a wide vocabulary and various concepts can help develop their intelligence. But won't a child expand his or her vocabulary over the course of their lifetime?
Well, there is a sensitive period for the development of vocabulary, which is between the ages of 3 and 5 years. It's as if the brain says, of all the things that I have to do, what I'm going to devote my time to right now is developing this child's vocabulary. And I will do this at other times in his life, but I will not put in the same effort as I am going to put in now while he's between the ages of 3 and 5. This is a time when he can best learn and achieve his very best in terms of developing vocabulary and developing the skills to increase his vocabulary. Now, once the child has developed a really good vocabulary for his age, then he builds on it. In other words, the more he knows, the more he knows. The more concepts he has, the more he can add to these concepts and make them bigger and bigger. For instance, if you're going to talk about a beak, and the child already has the concept of birds, then of course he will understand much more quickly what a beak is. And he will build again on that. As I said, the more he knows, the more he can know. He expands like a sponge in each area of development. The more he already knows, the more he is able to learn and learn more and know more.
So, if well established and a child entering elementary school has a wide vocabulary and a good understanding of many different concepts, are they set? Is that a strong enough base to sort of set them up for the rest of their life?
Well, it's a very, very good base, but of course it has to continue. So for the child to reach his full potential, of course, he needs more and more exposure to various concepts, those he gets in elementary school, those he gets at high school, those he gets in university, in order to reach his full potential.
Okay, so to wrap up the ideas we shared today, your baby is born with a specific upper limit for intelligence. The best you can do as a parent is to engage your baby and growing child in a way that will help your child reach his or her inborn potential. Watch your child's reactions to see what they're interested in and do more of that. Do more of what they love. Do they love animals? Do they love to talk about animals? Well, then get more books on animals. Sing about animals. Do they love rhyming? Well, then sing songs that rhyme or play rhyming games. Do they love stories that you make up? Well, tell more stories. Maybe replace a book before bed with a story of your own. The idea is to find activities that both you and your child can share and enjoy. That is the underlying theme of today's podcast. Doing this will not only help stimulate their intellectual growth, but make it fun. And the take-home message is they will learn if it is fun, and learning is fun.
That's right.
We hope that you found today's podcast helpful. Come say hi on social. Our Facebook and Instagram accounts are at Dr. Solomon's Wisdom, all one word. You can subscribe to the Wise Parenting Podcast on any podcast app, including Spotify, the Apple and Google podcast apps, or wherever you listen. Parenting advice keeps changing on us, depending on what you read and who you listen to. This is making parents feel like they're doing a bad job. And worst of all, many parents today don't know who to trust for what is probably the most important job they'll ever have. So if you're the parent of a young child and you would like to feel clearer, more confident, and more at ease about your parenting decisions, then the Wise Parenting Academy can help you get there. With on-demand access to our extensive lecture and seminar series, as well as exclusive one-on-one guidance from Dr. Solomon, the Wise Parenting Academy is the perfect next step to building the best long-term outcomes for your child. Come check us out at thewiseparentingacademy.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope you will join us again.